can see I've caught it up the window. Hello! Nope, you're not coming in. Things like these are just so much more atmospheric in VR. And the gore, the gore is just so much more effective. Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at how you get Resident Evil 2 VR to work. This is a game that it's not a VR game, it's a flat game, a normal game, but some very nice people called Flat2VR, or in this case the modder Praydog, has made a mod that makes you able to transform this, I won't say 2D game, because of course it's a 3D game, but this non-VR game into a VR game. So, first of all, this isn't very hard to do. The only thing you need is a copy of the game on Steam, for instance, and some files that you download off the internet and put into a folder. Nothing much more fancy than that, but I'll go over everything. As you might gather, I'm doing all this from VR, so apologies if I'm a bit slow. Hello and welcome to this short guide for how to enable the flat version of Resident Evil 2 to be played in VR. You can do this with practically any PC VR headset, and that includes the PSVR 2 connected to a PC, or the Quest 1, 2, and 3 connected to a PC, either wirelessly or via cable. So any headset that you can use for PC VR games, you can use to play Resident Evil 2 in VR, provided you have a PC that is fast enough, and of course the mod. So, let's get started. First of all, it's important to note which version of Resident Evil 2 do you have. So, let's go to the Steam library, find the game. You can see I've done it here. And go to Manage. And go to Properties. And go to Betas. So, if you can choose the DX11, that's DirectX 11. If you can choose the DX11 version, that means you're running the DX12 version. If you've just downloaded the game recently from Steam, or whenever, but you've enabled automatic updates, you should be running the DX12 version. And really, there is no reason to go back to the DX11 version, because there are some issues with that version in VR, which I will go over in the following. So, anyway, we are running the DX12 version, which is what we want. So, open the settings button here and go to Manage and go to Browse Local Files. This is the folder where the game is installed. We're going to need that folder because we are going to put some files into it. So, first thing you're going to need the mod files themselves. If you Google how to get this mod, you won't get, in most cases, you won't get this link. You'll get another link to, how can I put this? All of it's on GitHub, but there are various versions. This is the more experimental version, I suppose. And you might think, oh, I don't want that. I want the stable version. No, you really don't. Especially for Resident Evil 2. I can't say the same for the other versions of Resident Evil. This works with those two. I've only tested this with Resident Evil 2. But if you go with the normal version, the one you'll find if you just Google this, first of all, unless you buy a costume for Leon, you can't play as Leon. Or rather, you can. His right arm will always be invisible in one of your eyes in the headset. This looks like crap. It will give you a headache. You can circumvent this by just playing as Claire. There's no issues with Claire. Or you can buy a costume for Leon and equipping that. But if you just want to test, is this even running well not enough on my computer? You don't want to spend any money to find out if you can even run it. So, instead, you need to go to this link, which I will post in the description of the video. Now note, the official version from Praydog, anyone can just use that link and get the version. But the unofficial one, also known as the newest one, known as the Upscaler mod, which is much better for various reasons, requires you to have a GitHub account. A GitHub account is free, so just go and create one. You can create a burner email if you don't want your primary email to be associated with it, and then you can just throw it out afterwards. But create a GitHub account, log into GitHub, and then use this link. And what you want here is this folder, RE2. If you for some reason are running the DirectX 11 version of Resident Evil 2, you want RE2 TDB66, but you don't want that. So get the RE2, download it. As you see, I have it here. Open the zip file up. Everything that's inside the zip file, including the RE framework folder and all the files, you just copy those into the game folder, the one we opened from Steam when we said browse local files. We came in here. So you just take all those files and copy them over into the game folder. I've already done this. The only other thing you need to do before launching the game is to find this file, re2 _fw_config.txt. Well, the reason why you want to open this is to enable first-person mode. You do this by opening this file and just find this line. It will say false by default. Just change it to true and save the file. That's it. There is another way to do it. When you're in game, you can just point your right controller at your left wrist and a menu should pop up. This doesn't always work. Just edit the file. It is so much easier. Anyway, let's go into the game. And you need to launch Steam VR. Now, I don't know if this will come across in the video. It probably won't, not to the extent that I'm seeing, but in the headset, everything I'm seeing right now, all the words, all the letters, are incredibly shimmery. Oh, side note, you don't want to enable HDR because your headset does not support HDR. That includes the PSVR 2. It does not support HDR. You'll get totally blown out blacks on a PSVR 2, or any headset for that matter, if you enable HDR. So don't. So, as I was saying, all the letters look incredibly shimmery. There's a lot of aliasing going on. This is different when you're inside the actual game. So don't be worried that this doesn't look very good. It looks much better when you're inside the game. So, as I was saying before, if you install this mod, the one I'm talking about in this video, you should be able to play as Leon and still don't have any graphical glitches with his arms. It will be perfectly playable and pleasant. So, this is my game with Claire. So, two things. There are two reasons why you want this mod, the Upscaler mod, rather than the ordinary one. One is you can play with Leon without buying any extra. Two, and this is much, much more important. Let me show you. I go into Options, go into Graphics, because the ordinary version, the non-Upscaler mod version, is incredibly aliased. It's not low resolution as such. It's not unsharp. Unless, of course, you're running with a very low resolution. But no matter how high a resolution you set in Steam VR, also, don't mind the resolution here. No matter how high a resolution you set in Steam VR, the game will be incredibly aliased with shimmering along every single edge. It's very noisy image. You're thinking, oh, what if I turn on anti-aliasing? Yeah, anti-aliasing is broken, or rather, it does not work. It doesn't matter which setting you choose here in the normal version of the mod. The Upscaler version, which we are running here, you want to set it at TAA, because that actually works. Let me show you if you turn it off. I don't know if... well, I'm actually pretty sure this must come across in the video, because it is so blatant in the headset. So if you can see that everything has gotten much more shimmery now, and I don't really need to point out any particular parts of the image, because it's everything. It's the plant, it's the statue, it's every edge on the pillars, everything in the distance. Everything is shimmering, the pixels are crawling, it's almost like the pixels are blinking in and out all the time. It's an incredibly active, in a very bad way, image. And that's with anti-aliasing off, which is the only setting you can have with the normal version of this mod. But with the Upscaler mod, if I turn on TAA, there is still a little bit of shimmering, but it is completely insignificant compared to what we had before. So let me show you. I'm looking away from the menu now. I'm looking at the statue. So this is what it looks like with no anti-aliasing. And this is what looks like with anti-aliasing. The image might be a tad bit softer, a tad bit less sharp, but that's a price worth paying to get this. A much less noisy image, a much more pleasant image, a much more immersive image. So anyway, that's the result of getting the Upscaler mod, which I will be linking to in the description. Also worth noting, the Upscaler mod has better performance than the regular mod. I would say on average, my frame rate jumped about 10 to 15 frames per second. So I was getting something like maybe 70 to 85, sometimes reaching 90 FPS in smaller areas with the old mod. But with the Upscaler mod, I both get a much more pleasant image, which is what we are looking at now, and I got a frame rate that almost always can hit 90 FPS. And that really matters. Because don't think of this in flat terms like, oh, everything above 60 is fine. No. You don't want a high frame rate. You want a stable, and preferably also high, you want a stable frame rate. For instance, 95 frames per second, awful. 90 frames per second, perfect. Provided that's what your headset can do. This is another good example of what it looks like, or how bad it can look without the anti-aliasing. And then we go down to... Oh, also, worth noting, you want this setting set to borderless window. You'll get some weird bugs if you don't set it to borderless window. So very important, set it to borderless window. What graphical settings you set? I mean, you want VSync turned off, and you want TAA on, and the frame rate variable, and the refresh rate, just set it to the highest one. That's 165 Hertz in my case, because that's what I'm running this on a laptop. That's what the laptop can do. But basically, you want this set to higher or the same as the frame rate you've set in SteamVR. All the other settings, that will depend on your computer. I mean, some computers can easily go with a much higher texture quality. It will also depend on your network if you're doing this wirelessly with a Quest, for instance. So all these settings, it will vary from person to person, or rather from computer to computer, how good it will look. I would very much recommend turning off ray tracing, because that will totally tank the performance. And you want stable performance in VR. Also, Screen space reflections. I mean, you can test if it runs well, but it takes a lot out of the VR mod. I mean, some of these settings don't take a lot of extra resources in flat mode. It won't be the same in the VR mode. What is taxing in VR and what is taxing outside VR, completely different things. Experiment, but I would recommend turning off the reflections. I mean, you still get reflections, you just don't get the screen space reflections. Yeah, turn off motion blur and bloom. The rest of them you can experiment with. Also, I'd recommend turning off film noise. That's not that pleasant in VR. Anyway, the reason we went in here was to show what this scene looked like. Look down there. All the boards and, well, basically everything is so much more shimmery now. Also, the pillars here on the right in the foreground, close to 2 yards in front of me, you can also see they are quite shimmery. And now, with TAA, there's a tiny bit of it, but it's almost gone. And look at the boards down in the distance. They look perfectly fine now. Maybe a bit soft, but that's also due to the resolution I'm running at. But look when I turn the anti-aliasing off again. In the headset, this is night and day difference. I can't imagine anyone would prefer it looking like this. It looks simply awful, and most of all, it looks distracting. This is what we want, not this. Anyway, let me show you a bit of the environments before ending the video. Because this game is simply... Ooh, forgot about her. Oh yeah, using the flashlight in VR, so much cooler than doing it flat. No question about that. Going flat is just also magic where you're aiming. But here I can do this, and also all the shadows it's casting. But anyway, let's take care of her. No, not that. Oh, waste of shot. Still not that. Normally I would be using the knife in a case like this, because this is a waste of bullets. But I mean, this is just a demo video. I'm not going to save the game after this. So I hope she's dead. The game can be downright creepy. Especially when you suddenly get a jump scare or something that comes out of a door or a window or something like that. But just going down this hall using the flashlight. I mean, look at it. This might not come across in a flat video. It probably doesn't. But in VR, I mean, I am moving this flashlight. I am doing this. I'm not just controlling some character on the screen in front of me. Oh, damn. Oh, hello. Whoa, fuck. Okay, I wasn't prepared for that. Maybe I should demonstrate some of the weapons. Hold on, yes! Oh, like this. Right, I only have one shot, so let's make it count. Oh, where did they go? Hello? Oh, come on! Go away. I was hoping to use this on... Well, anyway. Let's go somewhere else. Then I can demonstrate this. Because using all the weapons is... I don't want to shoot you while you're out there. Using the weapons in VR is so much fun. In some ways it's easier to aim, as long as you can keep your cool. But it also it feels so much more tactile that you're holding something in your hand and you're aiming exactly where you want it to go. I love that. Oh, anyway, I think there are some zombies I haven't killed down here. Let's take a look. flashlight. He's very dead. I think maybe there's some in the office in here. Let's take a look. Let's go upstairs. I think there are some upstairs who aren't dead. Well, dead. I mean, all of them are dead. And at worst, we'll use it on those at the fence, but would prefer someone not behind. Oh yes, hello. Yeah, this is a total waste, but we are just demonstrating. Yeah. This looks rather special in VR. You are so fired. Yep. Totally. Oh. 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 I thought that was something much bigger due to the shadow. So, are you dead now? Yep. Totally dead. Yeah, I know. I'm totally wasting ammo. But this is just a demonstration and I'm not going to save. Anyway, the controls in VR. A quick intro. Of course, you just point the weapon, but pressing the trigger won't fire it. I'm pressing it now. Nothing happens. You need to hold down the right grip button. That gets you the crosshair. And notice it's contracts. It contracts. You don't want to shoot until it's contracted, because when it's contracted, that means you do more damage. Or you're more precise at a distance. So always wait for it to contract, and then you can move it as fast as you want. But each shot makes it... what's the opposite of contract? No clue in English, sorry. But yeah, every time you fire a shot, wait for it to contract again before firing the next shot. If you have the time, of course. If the zombies are getting right up in your face, you might not have the time for that. Anyway, that Resident Evil 2 VR. You can play this on any PC VR headset if you install the mod. And for God's sake, install the Upscaler mod that I'm linking in this video. Because otherwise, you will get worse performance. You will need to spend money to play as Leon. And everything will look worse. I mean, you will get worse performance and worse visuals. Yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as fast as I can. And whether your computer will be able to handle this, I don't know. It depends on your computer. But it's actually not as... I mean, this is taxing, more taxing than a made-for VR game. But I was actually surprised how well it runs, especially after getting this mod, on my computer. I'm using a Lenovo Legion Pro 5, which doesn't mean anything. What matters is which GPU do you have. I have a RTX 3070. That's the laptop version of an NVIDIA RTX 3070. And that really matters, because if you're using a desktop GPU, I would say this is about comparable to an RTX 2060 or 2070. So if you have that, you should get the same kind of performance I'm getting. And if you have something more powerful, then kudos. You might even be able to run this at 90 FPS or 120 FPS. Or I would recommend go for 90 FPS and dial up all the visual settings, apart from those that aren't really compatible with the mods, such as the ray tracing. And if that still runs perfectly, then you can try increasing the frame rate. But at 90 FPS, this game really, really rocks. And if there's something you don't want in VR, it's frame rate drops. Yeah, that's all for me for now. Bye.